Hi, folks. I'm unmuted. Good. Well, folks, I'm really pleased to announce and welcome Ben Browning to the team community, and this incredible talk on £1 million Billings blueprint. So, a 12-step system to 37 million in new business. Ben, how do we do this? This is astonishing.
Thanks for asking, Simon. Yeah, look, what I hope to share with the team network today and other members of the audience is a clear breakdown, the 12 steps that I actually have taken recruiters through, over 100 recruiters through, to generate over 37 million in revenue in the last 5 years, including Adam Tiberius, who I believe you spoke to earlier in the week about his $1 million billing journey. And the crucial thing about today is wherever you're at in your billings process, whether that $1 million target feels completely ridiculous and out of sight, whether you're just getting started, whether you're getting kind of restarted and trying to get your mojo back with BD, there's going to be a series of steps that you can follow here, a series of core truths and fundamental kind of elements that will map to any stage of your business development process. So yeah, thank you so much for inviting me to share this with the audience, and looking forward to provoking some thought and some discussion here amongst the audience.
Cool. Well, I'm going to drill you with some questions because that you've made some bold statements about the volume, and the good news is you've got tangible examples of where you've helped people, which bring the whole thing really credible. You've worked with hundreds of recruiters. What's the single best misconception people have about what it really takes to hit £1 million billings? Because it's like a ceiling that 90% of recruiters never hit. So did you get that, Ben? Sorry. Can you hear me, folks? Hi, Ben. Can you hear me? One of us is frozen, so that's a tricky one. Ben, can you hear me? I think you may have to re-engage. But my question was, and I'll fire it out again. You've worked with hundreds of recruiters. What's the single biggest misconception people have about what it really takes to hit 1 million?
Hello. It looks like Ben is having a bit of technical difficulties.
Okay, Jahisha. So can you answer that tricky question?
So, what does it take to get to $1 million? I'm a community, but yes, I know that Ben has answers.
All right, he'll be back in a minute.
Yeah.
I'd just like to say, look, everyone, we're sponsored by British Beef here today. I'm in the middle of Staffordshire, in a noisy pub, but please apologise for any interruptions we have. But isn't it good? If there's any food manufacturing people on, we're here to support British Beef, as well as Mr. Browning.
Oh,
where is
he's
he?
here.
Come on, we've got him back. Hey,
he's back in the room.
Hello. I just had my laptop has literally, I will share a screenshot of this with everybody actually later. My laptop has literally died and gone completely berserk. So I'm literally just going to swap over. Fortunately, I've got 2 laptops with me, so the show will go on. But
it will
you're very echoey, Ben. You're very echoey. Okay. So if what we can do to tidy up the audio, and I'm going to pose with you the question I said before. So you've worked with hundreds of recruiters. What's the single biggest misconception people have about what it really takes to hit 1 million billings? And I said 90% of people never ever achieve that. So what's the glass ceiling that people have to break through?
You're asking me a question. I'm just going to need a second to get this sound back on track. I'm really sorry about that. I wonder whether I'm just going to drop off camera.
We can hear you loud and clear.
You can hear me, but the sound's not great, if I understand it.
No, but we can get by. We can get by.
That should be me now.
That's cool. Right.
Hopefully you've got me on the on the headset, and we should be.
This is third time lucky. I'm going to ask you this question.
Well,
Right.
I think I caught the question. So to spare the audience from hearing it again, I think I caught the question, and I think the question was about the misconception that people have about billing $1 million. Well, look, I totally understand that. As a recruiter, as a consultant, that idea of billing $1 million was completely out of reach for me. It wasn't really ever something that I'd even considered as possible. And the consultants that I've worked with that have gone through and towards that milestone, including those that have crossed over the $1 million threshold, will tell you the same thing. Right now, especially, the process of sales, business development, and winning new business is much less about charisma, personality, continuous following up, as it is about having a solid process and structure. And most of what recruiters do with business development, unfortunately, isn't really that scalable. It doesn't allow them to acquire clients. They get in a bit of a hamster wheel of pulling roles and of following up on vacancies, and stuck in kind of friend zone loops with people who are never really going to buy with them, but are too polite to get rid of them. And when we flip all of that, when we look at what it means to sell the right thing to the right people at the right time and in the right way, we can then create this really scalable system that moves the whole process forwards and enables consultants to go from 200 through 300 through 500 and up as far as £1 million in billings.
Okay, thank you. Now, before we dig into the 12 steps, just if you can answer this one, what separates top billers from the almost there group? And what's the mindset or behavior shift that makes a difference?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think that ties into something we're going to perhaps touch on later as well, which is this idea of, why do some people do it? How can some people do it, and for others it seems so far away? And all of the work I've done has started with a very foundational look at those four elements I just mentioned, the elements of what are we selling when we're out there doing BD? Who are we selling to? When is the right time? And what is the right way? And the foundation, the clarity level in our 4-level model is absolutely where recruiters are going to find this. I spent the last couple of days actually vibe coding some apps for the team network. You guys will be able to access those. I'm sure Jahisha will share the link. And you'll be able to get access to all 3 of the foundational components that I share with my clients, from the piece around your sales culture, what do you believe and what are your core values, through to how do you build a process that actually works in terms of systematically aligning your sales steps with your buyer's journey. And then thirdly, how do you build metrics on top of that that really track sales activity? One of my biggest bugbears and one of the biggest frustrations and one of the biggest handbrakes on recruiters BD is that often when it comes to winning new business, we're tracking entirely the wrong things. So yeah, I think the first point there is the biggest thing that recruiters who do it, and the things that separates the ones who make it from the ones who don't, is that clarity layer. They really do the foundational work, and they're patient enough to get it done properly.
Good. Thank you for that. Now, I know you've got, because we've talked about it, you've got a 4-level framework, haven't you? Clarity, I think, precision, campaigns, and conversion. Can you just explain that a little bit more? That 4-level framework.
100%. But I think everybody on this call will agree that recruitment is the world's most valuable professional service. If you go back through the history of time, any business leader will tell you that the people in their organization are the most important, most valuable asset, and the key ingredient to achieving their biggest commercial success. And yet, so many organizations look at recruitment as a necessary evil. And we have to think about why is recruitment seen in that way, and often it's because of the way it's positioned and it's sold. And if you're a business leader who wants to start building more partner relationships, start selling more retained, or move into selling consulting fees, get more predictable control over your revenue and build a real pipeline of future business, then my strong recommendation, and what we've seen work consistently, is shifting to a place where you sell in a much more professionalized way, and that involves these 4 levels. The first level is clarity, which I've mentioned, which talks about your culture and your beliefs. How often do you audit the culture and beliefs that drive the way you sell? Then looking at your process, how do you map your dialogue and your interactions with your clients against their buyer journey? When you go to buy things, how frustrating is it that when you can sense that the journey and the experience you have as a buyer is driven by the salesperson and what the salesperson is trying to achieve rather than what the buyer wants and what you want from that journey? And how often do we as recruiters really think about that buyer journey in our BD strategy? And then the final part of that is metrics. In the precision layer, we go on, we take all of that information and then we go, right, give me a 100-person list, make it absolutely refined to the ICP, the types of people I want to win, I want to go after and win. In every list of 100 people who tightly match your market, you should win 5 to 7 of those clients as, businesses as clients. And if you can get to a place where you're selling them £50,000 worth of services, or maybe in some cases £100,000 worth of services, then you can build a 500k desk from a list of as few as 100 ideal contacts. And that's what we help people do in the precision layer. The campaign layer is all about a multi-threaded, you'll have heard this phrase so many times, a multi-channel, multi-threaded outreach approach, but making it really tangible so that at the desk as a consultant, I've got a 3-week plan. Nothing more, nothing less. I've got a 3-week plan that's going to help direct me through the conversation and help me weave all of the components I need into that buyer's journey to win that client. So from that 100-person list, I've got a 3-week protocol, and that's going to generate those 5 to 7 clients. And then the final level is conversion, right? How do we realistically go about consistently winning better revenue? Now, lots of recruiters will think about better revenue as meaning retained. I don't actually. When you think about retainers, the challenge that we have is contingent, the recruiter owns all the risk. With a retainer, the client owns most of the risk. So where is the middle ground? Where is the bit where we actually look to reduce the risk and dial the risk down? And that's in a model that we kind of position as consulting fees. It's a real breakaway from retainers. It also means recruiters can get not only paid up front, but also for the services of advice and data that they provide their clients between stages. And that's another way to leverage towards $1 million, is not only getting paid on placements, but it's getting paid for the work and the support you provide clients between placements. We might touch on that a little bit later.
That's cool. Thank you. Quite a few of our visitors today will be going, well, I do some of this already. You know, I've got part of this process right. But which of the 4 levels do most firms get wrong? And what's the quick win to fix it?
Yeah, you'd be amazed. So I talk to so many businesses who say things like, we're really good when we get in front of people. We're doing all the right things, we're just not cutting through. It's super interesting to me, that conversion piece, because usually when recruiters say we're really good when we get in front of people, I then question, well, okay, how often do you walk away with something better than contingent terms? And often it's less than 50% of the time. That means that you've got into a room with a client who has agreed to meet you, and they've got a vacancy, and you've walked away with the opportunity to work on the role. My question would be, what did you expect was going to happen? I would say if you're walking away from meetings with clients and coming away with contingent terms less than 95% of the time, then there's something wrong in the process. But the real answer, and the bit that people mostly kind of miss, is ultimately comes down to that belief and value, the clarity layer. So many recruitment businesses that I speak to, and I spoke to a brilliant business earlier this week who do an incredible job right across their client portfolio. They've built teams, they've set up international instances and run payroll. They've done all sorts of things around recruiting, and yet their marketing strategy, their outreach strategy is all about, yeah, we can find you the best candidates. And I said to them, look, guys, how much of the value that's tied up in your 15 years of experience and all the relationships that you have with clients, all the information, insight, data, advice that you provide them, the reporting you do, and the way that you help clients change their hiring or their experiences of hiring over time, how much of that value comes from simply your ability to find people? And their answer was that actually, you know what, finding people is just table stakes, really. It doesn't actually make them, they're not a world-class recruiter because they can find people. That very idea is laughable. So my question to them is, well, what does make you a world-class recruiter? Why should people meet you? Why should they care? And that then in turn leads us to look at the kind of different ways they create value, not just placing candidates. But that all comes from their clarity, from their culture, from their core messaging. It comes from the leaders, not from the consultants. It's not about how do you handle an objection or how do you run a BD call. It's not about how do you send a really clever email. It's about fundamentally the fabric of who are you as a business and why do you deserve to do all of your clients' recruitment for the next 12 months.
Yeah, good. Thank you for that. Now you've got 90 days to drive this BD growth.
Yes.
If you could focus on one of these levels, and I know what you're going to do. You're going to say you need to focus on 4 of them if you want to do £1 million. But if you could focus on one of these levels for 90 days to drive BD growth, which one moves the needle fastest? What's a priority to focus on?
Well, let's take clarity as table stakes. You aren't going to increase your revenue in 2026 if you don't regain clarity. And I think most recruiters have had this at some point, but they need to regain clarity. But the next thing, the next 90 days, what are we doing? January, February, and March next year, it's all about precision. It's all about a total clarity on your ICP, on the lists of the people that you're targeting. And I can't stress this enough. I see this get talked about in really woolly, flaky kind of terms. People say to me, oh yeah, we've done a bit of that. We've got a bit of an idea of what our ICP is. No, unless you can tell me the path that those people have been on. So who they are, where they've come from, where they're going. Unless you can tell me their position, their job title, or the level of responsibility. So we've got path, we've got position, we've got place. Unless you can tell me what types of organization they work in, what market they serve, what geographical location they operate in, and unless you can tell me their preferences in terms of the way they like to do business, the things they'd like to see from recruiters, the things they want to achieve, and their priorities in terms of what their goals and their key kind of targets are, then you don't have clarity on your ICP. You've got to have clarity over path, place, position, priorities, and preferences. And that's only one component of the precision layer. We then look at your messaging. What are the phrases, the mechanisms that you use to get people interested in what you're talking about? You have to know the exact problem that you solve. So I'll give you an example. I'll talk about this business that I was working with earlier this week. Their message to their market, their selling points when we went through the audit with them were things like they've got a 100% CV to interview ratio. Fantastic. They've got a 3-to-1 interview to hire ratio. Brilliant. They said they've got speed to market and they've got 15 years experience in their sector. And I said to them, who cares? Think about that buyer psychology. Buyers aren't sat there thinking, I wish I could find a recruiter who would have a 100% CV to interview ratio. In fact, I challenged them on that. And I said, actually, maybe some leaders would rather a process of discounting certain candidates from the process. Maybe what we're talking about here is a very recruiter measure rather than a buyer measure. I don't know, but like it was just interesting to me to explore that. We then look at what problems do they solve, and their clients are renewable energy in startup and scale up modes. A really buzzy market, brilliant. And what I said to them was, look, what is the biggest problem for those companies? What's the biggest worry for them? And they admitted it is investor confidence. The biggest challenge for those businesses that they serve is investor confidence. So we've got this now, we've built this list of 100 people who specifically sit in that market or on that trajectory. They're typically second-time founders. They are in a particular geographic market. They have a real style of business and a way that they like to do business. They've got similar features in their ICP persona. And we then go to what are the problems those people face. We say, how do you as a recruiter, how do you as a business help your clients solve that challenge of investor confidence. And here's how they do it, right? They've got a proven process that 15 years market experience has taught them what works and what doesn't work in clean tech hiring in the US. So they've got this custom built, tailored methodology for the clean tech US market that delivers hires quicker, at a better standard, on budget. And it gives and the thing that their feedback from their clients is that they love the consistency and the clarity that that process gives. So we then say our sales message for them becomes something along the lines of, we know that clean tech startups and scale-ups, founders of clean tech scale-ups, are most concerned right now about investor confidence. And the inability to hire on time, hire the right people on time and in budget, means that investors lose confidence in that founder and in that business. But our methodology has been built over the last 15 years to help companies with this exact problem, and is proven to give leaders confidence and clarity that leads to increased investor confidence, so you can maximize your next funding round. And all of a sudden, we've gone from, oh, I fill jobs, to I give businesses a competitive advantage. I am delivering the world's most valuable professional service, and I've become essential to their growth plans. And do you know what? Maybe I'm not. Maybe all of that is a little bit bold and marketing heavy, but it books meetings, and they're really good when they get in front of people. So we've kind of done our job, right?
Yeah, no, that's cracking. Thank you for that. If we move on a little bit, if we get to, I'm keen to understand the mindset and motivation of some of your successful clients and recruiters. You've said that most recruiters avoid BD not because they can't do it, but because they hate how it feels. What do you think is behind that? Because we need to get
Well,
people past this and more confident in this space.
we really do. We really do. And you know what? I think that running a clarity workshop has been transformational for the way that I think about BD, but also my clients as well. And what tends to come out of those sessions is, look, think about it, right? If you know, as a recruiter, that hiring people is really important to a business, and they're prepared to pay £10,000 or £20,000, or in some cases, if you work in the US market, you might even be making £30,000 fees. If your clients are spending a lot of money on recruitment and they see it as important, and you know how crucial the individual that you might be placing with them is for their business, and not only that, you know how important it is for them to have a really good hiring strategy, then lining up and calling a list of random people who are vaguely within your sector and telling them that you can find good candidates is like me standing outside Sainsbury's, or like me becoming the CEO of Sainsbury's and standing at a shop saying we sell carrots. It's like, it's a tiny fraction of your potential value proposition. And that is, for me, where the biggest disconnect seems to happen. When I talk to consultants who start to really talk about selling in a much more solution-oriented way, a much more problem-oriented way, and start taking their client through the buyer commitments. There are 9 commitments that a buyer has to go to. Once you demystify that and show them what those commitments are, they start going, oh yeah, my job isn't to persuade someone to work with me. My job is to, and this is the definition we use for sales at Resonant, is to inspire and empower other people to take decisive action. And I'm not going to do that on one cold call. Actually, I need to give them some data first, then I need to show them some credible advice, then I get to do the recruiting, and ultimately I'll build that up to my full value stack. But yeah, the reason that recruiters, the recruiters that I work with, at least, whatever it is now, number of recruiters that I've worked with over the last sort of 5 to 10 years, find recruitment, find BD frustrating and are demotivated, and leaders spend so much time trying to get them to do the bloody job, right? It's because of this fundamental disconnect between the value that they actually offer and the things they're being told to say on the phone.
Yeah. In your experience, what are the 3 the 3 best fixes that make consultants want to do BD rather than avoid it? Or have you sort of covered that now, do you think?
I think we've certainly talked about one, aligning the value proposition and
Yeah.
making sure that they're really clear on that. I think the second thing is move away, right? 2 things actually, language wise, really tactical in your business today. So in those, for everyone listening, in your recruitment business today, let's reframe cold calling. 60 or 70% of meetings across all of my clients come from on the phone. But none of my clients refer to cold calls as cold calls anymore. They all talk about this idea of research calls. When you're calling somebody out of the blue for the first time, your mission, your main goal is to get them to clarify whether or not they have a problem that you believe they have. When we create that list of 100 people, we think that those people are likely to have this big commercial goal that we can potentially solve, be it, per the example I just gave, investor confidence. But if I call that list of 100 people, likely 50% are going to say, no, we don't worry about investor confidence, or investor confidence isn't a concern for us, or we're not going for our next funding round, or we just don't see the world that way. Now, of those, the large majority will be not being completely honest with you. It's very difficult to get somebody to admit that they have a problem because 1, you're a stranger, and 2, you're a salesperson, and worst of all, 3, you're a recruiter. And I say that with huge love, but it's very difficult to get people to open up and tell you their problems. But that's what our cold calls, our first interactions with a client when we're on the phone with them, have to be about. I see in the world these 3 problems. Do you recognize any of those problems? And if you do, are you curious about ways in which you can solve them? And taking that research-based approach is the highest level of conversion to then what we're really looking for, which is a first stage meeting, a discovery meeting. So the first thing I would do if I were looking to get consultants keyed in and motivated to do BD is, 1, I would get back to them, really look as a business and as a leadership team, what is our value proposition and what are we expecting people to go out and promote? And then secondly, what is our strategy to cold calling? Because if you're out there trying to pitch your services or tell people how good you are, tell people who or what you do, then you're dying in the first 15 seconds. Your only goal in that first call should be to run a problem menu by them and find out whether they experience any of those pain points.
That's grand. Thank you, Ben. That certainly had clarity around that. Now here we go. I'm gonna use that strange swear word in recruitment now. AI, AI marketing and modern tools. How many agencies have invested in AI and upgraded marketing? I call it upgraded marketing, but still aren't seeing results. I'm keen for your thoughts on that, and where's the disconnect there?
Yeah, I'm glad you asked this question, Simon. It speaks absolutely to what I'm seeing. I think from the reflections with you and Andy over the last couple of weeks, same sort of thing, right? Recruitment leaders right now have invested in marketing, invested in tech, invested in tools, and probably invested in some training this year. BD hasn't, activity levels have increased a bit from what we hear, but results still feel pretty patchy, and not just because of the market, because as you and I were talking about recently, there are businesses in the same sector, in the same niche of a similar size, some of whom are, if not going backwards, certainly not going forwards, and others in the same market, same size, same niche are doing really well. So there is a disconnect between companies across the board where they could be achieving more success, but currently things aren't working in their favor. And I think often, and it's probably not uncommon, right, across any industry, but we've seen the shiny technology, we've thought about the marketing and branding, we've gone out and we've applied these new, a bit of lick and polish and a bit of professionalization or tech upgrade to our business. But very often the companies that I talk to, and the things actually, when I think about it, the things that really drove Adam to bill $1 million are not, and actually £1 million this year, so he's done done one and a bit, but he's over £1 million this year. But the things that have pushed him through that mark weren't really marketing or AI. In fact, he's very kind of, in a methodology wise, very anti-AI, very kind of into personally market mapping everything that he does. Spends about 70% of his time market mapping for both himself and for his team right now, as he's building a new team. But he, the AI and the marketing and the training investment that's been made hasn't got results. So what do we do? Well, for me, we've got to look at that foundation. We've got to look at that 12-box model. We've got to think, right, do you have that clarity over your value prop, your metrics, and your process? Do you have precision in your targeting and your messaging? Are your campaigns, where you're bringing AI in, be that sort of through Sourcewell or whatever tools you're using, are those campaigns really well structured and synchronized, and they're delivering the right kind? Ultimately, are they delivering the right kind of message to the right kind of people? And then conversion, are we still scrapping around, chasing jobs, doing kind of, I mean, I see so much rec tech that's about, here's how you present a candidate to a client with a live need. Like, don't do that. Don't do that. They've got 50,000 CVs in their inbox waiting to be read. Take a pause. Great example of this is take a pause and say, look, I've seen you interviewing for, I've seen your advertising for this project manager role at the moment. Don't worry, I'm not just going to lob you another few CVs or grill you on the job briefing, but typically when we speak to businesses who hire these kinds of project managers, they tend to run into one of three problems, either A, B, or C. Now you're probably going to tell me you haven't run into any of that just yet. And the hiring manager will either say, yes, we are experiencing that, and then it opens up a conversation about how you could potentially help. Or they'll say, no, we haven't run into that yet. In which case I say, no problem, I'll call you back in 2 weeks' time and see how you're getting on. Then you might think, wow, crazy, am I missing a commercial opportunity here? But no, because I don't want to work that role on contingent terms and join the queue. I want that role exclusive. So I'm going to let the recruiters have a bum fight over sending CVs. And then at the end of that process, when the client's thoroughly fed up of all of the chaff that they've been sent and the way the process has been run, say, look, have you run into any of those problems I mentioned? And the client says, yeah, do you know what? Actually, we have. Can you help us? I'm like, well, I'm only going to do this exclusive. So you're going to need to tell the other agencies to stand down. Otherwise, I can't help. And then you've given them a commercial decision. So there's a couple of things there. But I think a large part of this is, can we fundamentally relook at what it means to sell recruitment, selling the right thing to the right people in the right way at the right time. And if all we're doing is putting AI and marketing on top of a broken system, then, well, I worry about it, honestly.
Yeah, no, thank you. Can we get into the 12-step system a little bit? So can you give us some insight into one or two of those 12 steps that recruiters could apply tomorrow and start seeing some traction?
Yeah, for sure. So I've talked about the clarity audit, the values piece. In fact, I want everybody to make sure they're getting access to this hub that we've created. That will give you the full clarity level. These are the tools that I share with my clients. We've got the clarity audit, the culture audit. We've got the process builder, and we've got the metrics tracker. And that really, all those three tools will give you the best kind of leverage to create that clarity level. And they will drive your results. Like, they are the biggest multiplier because they come before you do anything else. Now, recruitment training and all this kind of stuff, I often get asked, how do you make a cold call, or how do you write a BD email, those sorts of things. They come, right?
Ben, I think we lost a bit of connection again then. So just last 20 seconds, just run through that again. Cool.
Yeah, so we've got the hub with everything you need for the clarity layer. And I want everybody to make sure that they're accessing that. Now, the big challenge, the big question that I get asked is, how do you build a sales campaign? What I want you to think about is typically start off with 30 people, right? Just 30 people. We're going to keep it low. We're going to keep a low campaign volume here. What we're going to do, we're going to look at those 30 people. We're going to map out 2 calls per week for the next 3 weeks, 2 attempted dials for the next 3 weeks. To be absolutely crystal clear, If you reach them at any point, you stop calling them. I'm not suggesting we call them twice per week after we've had that initial conversation. We also layer in 2 emails per week for that 3-week period. And we also layer in 1 DM per week on LinkedIn. That should be a voice note or a video or a visual, a graphic that we can send. Not a meme, not a GIF, but a visual representation of your sales workflow or the way that you solve the problem that you know that they're facing. And visuals create an amazing return on investment. For the ease of sending that, they really act as scroll stoppers and get people's attentions. But also videos and voice notes have a really high conversion rate to meetings at the moment. Strongly lean into those. So you take your 30 people and then you map out your touch points over the next 3 weeks. We then think back to our precision layer. What is that commercial problem that those people are suffering with? Where is the pain point? And what is your methodology for solving that specific problem? Give it a name. It will typically be your company's name. So mine might be the resonant recruitment methodology, maybe something with fewer syllables. But you could have the R way and map that out, and that's answering specifically to those problems that your clients commonly face. So that's where I would start. If I was building a sales campaign, if I was shortcutting the clarity and the precision layer, it's a bad idea. But if I was doing that, I'm jumping straight into the action. That's how I go about building that campaign.
Cool. Thank you. Now, going back to Adam, who I caught up with in Carolina on video the other day. Very impressive guy. Completely bought into the processes and said, you know, he was celebrating what you've been talking about today. How you helped him go those average billings to 1 million a year. What were the key breakthroughs along that journey? How long did it take to educate and for him to buy into those new processes? What were the breakthroughs?
Yeah, I have to say this. Adam is the perfect student, right? And I say that. I don't mean that to sound in any way patronising, but he did everything we talked about. He did everything we talked about. He slowed down when he needed to slow down, and he sped up and put the foot on the gas when he needed to put the foot on the gas. And honestly, one of the biggest challenges for me is not that the process that we share has any kind of weak links in it, but the recruiters often are, everybody works to their own pace, right? Everybody has their own rhythm and their own cadence for how they want to get things done. But as I say, skipping that clarity and precision layer, like I say, I mean, the great example of this is that Adam these days spends 70% of his time mapping markets. He spends the other 30% of the time on the phone. His email outreach is all automated and sequenced, and his LinkedIn DMs and videos and voice notes actually don't convert as well as phone for him. So because most of his clients are on the road a lot of the time, so he is 30% on the phone, 70% of the time on mapping. And granted, he is mapping for his team as well, but I think that just shows, right, that what it is. We're almost exactly 2 years on from my first coaching session with Adam. In the first 6 months, he got to a place where he had the system built. In the next 12 months, he built $1 million. He then took that up to £1 million. His team of 6, who he trains on the exact process that we taught, each bill 200K, and most of them are rookies. He's got this seat. I'll send you the photo of it actually, Simon. He's got a seat in his office that his new team members sit at when they're doing BD, and it's got post-its above their screen with 3 things written on. It says 30-second opener, problem menu, book the meeting. And they sit and they do that and they make the dials and they run research calls, not cold calls, they run research calls, and they've got a really well-defined list and they get results. So the thing that made Adam successful is that he followed the plan. He did the work.
Cool. That's good. Next question. How can recruiters turn a rebrand or marketing push into actual revenue rather than just noise and new logos?
Yeah. This is crucial. I want to go through this in detail. If you're a recruitment business leader listening to this, then I absolutely advise you to grab a pen and paper for this bit. This is a unique model to Resonant. It will sound familiar because it's just intuitively right, and the 5 elements are not proprietary, but Stack your value this way and you will make more money almost immediately. Here's what I want you to do. And I learned this actually, bit of backstory. I learned this while I was working internally as an internal recruiter running a big project for EY. This is the DART model, and this is how professional services businesses broadly sell. The first thing we're going to do is we're going to think about all of the data that you know as a business. And with AI and ChatGPT available, you can create incredible, you can turn the data that you have into incredible, beautiful reports. The website that I'm sharing with you, the team hub that I'm sharing with you was vibe coded from all of my content but it took us about a week and a half to put it all together. Vibe coding projects from your data is not difficult, but it delivers your insights to your clients in a really beautiful way. If you want advice on that, DM me and I'll talk you through a couple of vibe coding lessons that I've learned on the way too. The next thing you'll want to think about, the next part of your DART model is advice. Great example of this. You're doing a salary survey, you send it out to all of your potential clients, you've given them your data, but how many of you on the bottom of that home screen for your salary survey have a button that says book a half-day team, book a 1 hour, book a 90-minute or half-day consultation with us, and we'll walk you through exactly what this data means for you and your business. If you feel like you're already paying at the top of the salary bracket but still not getting the best talent, talk to us and we'll help you understand why. If your budget falls below this bracket but you want to hire, talk to us and we'll help you work out what you need to do. Recruiters don't sell or package their advice in this way, but the moment you do, you create you actually turn into a true expert, because experts sell advice. The definition of expertise is selling your advice. Many recruiters say to me they want to be seen as an expert. They struggle to get seen as an expert, but very few have a mechanism for selling their advice. So we've got data, which typically you're going to package and give away for free, but then leads to an advisory-based product. That advice product then leads to your core product, which is recruitment, by the way. That's the first R in the DART model. The second R in the DART model is reporting. I cannot believe how few recruiters have reporting decks that they share with their clients after a period, either quarterly, half yearly, annually, or after a number of hires, like after every 5 hires. This is where the data element becomes really real for your clients. So if you don't have a reporting suite that you share with your clients as part of both your BD strategy and your delivery strategy, then I absolutely would advise that you do. And the final part then is we've got this report. So we've given you data, we've given you advice, we've done the recruitment, we've given you a report that supports all of that. We then go, how are we going to make that better next quarter, next half year, next year? How can we take everything we've learned and done for you and improve on it so that recruitment becomes your biggest competitive advantage? How do we turn your hiring strategy in something that becomes a real commercial asset for your business? Because that's where we want to help you get to. And when you start talking like that, 1, you book more meetings. 2, you start monetizing your relationship between hires. Crucial if you're an expert premium position recruiter to find ways to monetize your support of businesses between hires, and then ultimately you end up making more money. that's the real.
Good. Right, sir. I want to talk about some practical takeaways now, if you like. You're giving away the revenue roadmap calculator today. Thank you for that. And we'll think about how we can do that later. And I'm sure Jahisha and you will give us some detail on that. What insights can it reveal that most recruiters never think about when setting targets? So that's a revenue roadmap calculator you're giving away.
Yeah, 100%. So that's part of the hub, right? That's part of our 3 levels of clarity. We've got to measure the right things. Again, frustrated here, but one of the handbrakes we see on businesses is that they're measuring the wrong things when it comes to BD. So here's what I was saying to a client yesterday, actually. We went through this map, and what this map does is it tells you, the process goes like this. I'll take you through the process. You can do it without the tool if you're clever with maths, and if you're not, then plug your numbers in to our tool. Here's what we do. We take your revenue target. We then say, what's your average fee? What's your average fill rate? And how often typically do your clients hire? You can do this on contract temp or interim as well. You just need to work out your client value. But on perm, it's really easy because it's a £10,000 fee 5 times a year, of which you fill half, is 25 grand. So if I, as a consultant, want to make 250k a year, I need 10 of those clients paying me 25 grand to get to that number. I then factor in a margin of error. I never want to be just covering my target. I always want to add on, I always want to add on 20%. So I'm going to say I've got 12. I need 12 clients paying me 25k to make sure I hit my 250k target. Then we can work backward on your conversion rates. And once you've got your sales process nailed down, you'll know that calls lead to discovery meetings lead to proposals lead to you multi-threading leads to negotiations, and negotiations lead to winning deals won. When you've gone through each of those elements, you'll know the ratios from, for example, how many conversations do you need to have with people before you book a meeting? How many meetings before you land on a proposal? How many proposals before you multi-thread, and so on? And what that enables you to do, what that absolutely dynamite gold mine data enables you to do, is see where you need to apply tech, training, marketing, or anything else. Without those numbers, if your BD numbers are how many jobs did we pull, or how many meetings did we book, or call to talk time, for example, that gives you absolutely no clarity on which conversion ratios need to be improved. I can give you benchmarks, and you can, frankly, I can give you recruitment-related benchmarks for what million-dollar billers do, not billion yet, but million-dollar billers do, or you could pull some reasonable benchmarks off of ChatGPT and compare where you are, and then you can go, oh, do you know what? I thought we were really good in meetings, but we very rarely, off the back of a meeting, loop HR in a way that they agree to our terms to work with us exclusively for a year. Or I thought we were really good on cold calls because we were booking loads of meetings, but those meetings are usually not with qualified stakeholders. So actually, not only are we not as good at booking meetings as we thought we were, but actually we're wasting our time in those meetings because we're tending to meet the wrong people. So that pipeline calculator and all of the data that comes out of that, and again, if you want help understanding and implementing it, I'm really happy to take you through. Book a 20-minute call with me, and we can do that. They're all labeled as growth chats in the hub. There'll be several links for booking a growth chat in the hub. And yeah, if you want to have a conversation with me about that, do, because genuinely, if nothing else, right, going into 2026 and you do the same stuff, but you know how it connects to your revenue by looking at those conversion data points, that will tell you where to invest in AI, where to invest in tech and tools, where to invest in training. And then you can go out to wonderful people like Jeremy or Hisham or whoever, and you can say, look, we need specific advice around this particular conversion point. Without that data, you're kind of flying blind, you know?
That's cool. Thank you. Now, I don't want them to do this, and neither will you, but if someone walks away from this team talk today and implements one thing, and we want them to do more than that, what should it be to start that journey towards the £1 million billings?
This is the hardest question, isn't it? And can I be real, right? I think that there are a tiny proportion of our audience today who think, I'm going to go away and start the process of billing £1 million or $1 million next year, right? I think the reality is that most people are like, I just want to get control of consistently and confidently doing BD. Like, my goal today is not to lead people necessarily. I mean, I want people to know that it's possible, because it absolutely is. And it surprised me that it was, but it really is possible. But what I really want is for people to go away and feel that they've got that confidence and clarity over BD. And the way that we get there, the way that we get to that point, the most important thing for us to do is to review what you believe about the sales message you're putting out there. Are you really, truly presenting the impact that you have on your industry? Now, one of the reasons I was so excited and so keen, actually, Simon, to join you guys in the team network is I have this philosophy, that helps recruitment businesses. And I feel like, although we've never spoken about it explicitly before, I feel like it's a shared vibe with the way that team operates. And it all comes back to this phrase I keep talking about, which is recruitment is the world's most valuable professional service. I worry, and my biggest concern is that recruiters shape the way they are dealt by clients. They shape the frustrating levels of commitment, intermittent levels of commitment they get from their clients and maybe sometimes from their candidates by failing to really own the narrative. And as I say, my real wish, my hope for everybody going away from this, if they do one thing, is just to reflect on, are they communicating their full value to their clients, or are they hiding behind things they think they should say and not really committing to putting their best foot forward and getting the true value of what they do out there?
Thank you, Ben. I think that's laid out some great guidance for people to rethink what they do in 2026. I think we're in for more of the same. What we've got at the moment is a pretty depressed market, so everyone's feeling a bit glum. But we're in a very crowded market. 34,000 recruitment companies in the UK. Lots of them saying the same things, chasing fewer jobs. If you've got a different message, if you're adding insights, clarity, data, and providing true expertise and informing your clients and candidates about what's going on in their market, a lot of those clients and candidates see what they can see. If you're one company, you might not see the whole market. The wonderful opportunity for recruiters who work a certain market is they get a breadth of that market, don't they? And you've given some good guidance today on how to showcase your expertise with real data and insights. And I've seen we're very fortunate. Perhaps you and I, we see a cross section of the recruitment market, and we see some people doing some amazing things. And our most successful recruiters at the moment are doing several of the things you just talked about. They're looking at their market, they're providing data, they're showcasing it as informative, actionable ideas for their clients and their candidates to be more successful in what they do. Hire better people, find better jobs, find the companies that are really moving forward. So candidates are being taken towards people in their market that are succeeding. So they're joining better companies. It's still a good place to be, and I still see 10% of our membership roaring and doing really well, and actually, because in some ways the rest of the market is really nervous and concerned. They're waiting for the budget's going to be same for everyone. Those that are just going out there and ignoring that, going, well, it is the same for everyone, but we're doing this. We understand who we are, we've got the clarity of our message, we're putting stuff out there. You're really focused about the ICP. There was some great clarity on that, Ben. I think if you can dig into, we're in the food manufacturing market, but within that market, these are the people that buy from us. These are people that don't. These are the people that are growing. These are the people that got funding. They're expanding and opening new distribution centers. You know, they're the people who go where the money is, fish where the fish are. It's really great advice. We're going to share all of this to everyone who's attended, with the full recording, and we're going to plug in your new little apps that you've created for people, that you've done for team. But those guests that have come today, they can have that too. And I'm really pleased they've joined us today. It's been a really exciting story, and I look forward to more sessions from you, Ben, over the years. I think we're getting together next week, aren't we, down in Sussex? And Ken, you're doing the same thing down there. Cool.
I'm doing it in person next week, helping
Yeah.
a room full of local recruitment business leaders walk away with £15,000 in extra billings. So yeah, that'll be quite a session.
Yeah.
So if you're in Sussex and available next week, then do come along.
yeah, contact us, Team HQ, and we'll send you an invite if you're not on the list. Ben, thank you very much. A big thank you to all our attendees and Jahisha for putting this together. See you all soon. Thank you very much. Bye for now.
Cheers, guys. Take care.